They call it the Razer Blade 14, and these are the benchmarks that are going to be coming up in just a few minutes. Now, right off the bat, let's jump into the biggest issue I see with this laptop, and then I'll get into the myriad of positive attributes that I love about this laptop. It is the thermals. They are exceptionally hot. I saw temperatures up to 100 degrees Celsius during the 4K export and then stabilized at 92 degrees Celsius for the 4K export, which to me is not a good stabilized temperature. I like to see laptops in the high 70s, low 70s, and for some mobile laptops in the 60s. Those are, amazing temperatures. And yes, these CPUs are designed to run hot. The Ryzen website officially says that this CPU can run at 105 degrees Celsius, but it is still a piping hot CPU. And it seems to be something that happens when a company goes from using Intel CPUs and then onboards the Ryzen CPUs. There seems to be a lag in understanding how to cope with the thermals of these piping hot Ryzen CPUs. We saw it with the Asus TUF A15, we saw it with the Asus Zephyrus G14, and now we're seeing it in the Razer Blade 14 with the Ryzen 9 5900HX. Now, again, I know these CPUs can handle that amount of heat, but it is very uncomfortable and kind of annoying when your fans are running at 56 decibels and the laptop is 100 degrees Celsius on the desk, or even, if you're on the go, it could even be on your lap. And there's debatable things about if you should have a laptop on your lap, but I digress. We're not going to go there. So now that we've covered one of my biggest concerns, let's dive a little deeper on this laptop. If you want to know my kind of full impressions of this laptop from an unboxing standpoint, you can check that out right here in the YouTube cards above. For this video specifically though, I'm going to talk about a handful of things I didn't cover in the unboxing as to not double take the information. First and foremost, the webcam. There's a webcam up on the top bezel of the screen, and here's what it looks like. Webcam, as always, is okay. 720p. It seems to want to contrast towards more darker tones. If I put my hand in front of it, you can see I can brighten it up, but as soon as it kind of adjusts again, it darkens back up. But overall, it'll do the job as far as your meetings and needs are concerned. One of the standout features of this laptop is the upward-facing speakers that create a fantastic immersive audio experience. And here's a sample of that. The color gamut range and color accuracy on this laptop are top notch. We see 100% sRGB and a high DCI-P3 and a high Adobe RGB. The only downside I see to this screen is it only reached about 400 nits of screen brightness. I expected it to be a little bit brighter, but overall it is still a fantastic screen. I'm a little annoyed with the chunky bezel at the bottom of the screen. I feel like they could have dropped that down a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, giving us a little more screen room for our workflow in the day-to-day life of a creative professional. The keyboard is great. I love the soft and snappy key press. The keys are not exactly a soft matte finish. They're a little more of a hardened plastic, but they have great snap. It's a nice layout. It's quiet. It's very bright in the dark, so you can see your keys very, very clear. The trackpad is also very quiet, a mechanical trackpad with great touch and click sensitivity. Here's a little audio sample of both the keyboard and the trackpad. Regarding the ventilation, we have a vent along the back panel of the chassis, along the back of the bottom cover, as well as these 2 large vents along the bottom cover. Now, I expected this to cool the laptop with much more efficiency, though as we saw in the thermal results, it did not. Now, if anybody is interested in critiquing my thoughts on the thermals of this laptop, please comment below. I'm very curious if you guys think this laptop is perfectly fine running at 92 to 100 degrees Celsius, or if you think that's an area of concern. Comment below. If you're curious about the exact pricing and availability of the Razer Blade 14, you can head down in the description below and click one of those links. Now, if you do use that link to make a purchase, I will get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you, and that's what keeps this channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. Before getting into the benchmarks, what is the upgrade path like on this laptop? Unfortunately, you can only upgrade the SSD and the Wi-Fi card. I was really hoping for the ability to upgrade the RAM, but that is soldered to the motherboard, which is pretty disappointing in my opinion, especially that most configurations you can only find in 16 gigs. I have not been able to find a 32 gig configuration. If you have, again, comment below. I want to know about that one so we can recommend it to those who want a 32 gig variant of this model. Jumping right into the performance benchmarks for this laptop, let's check out Cinebench R20 and R23. And as you can see, it is at the top end of both of those charts, really showing off with great performance, with only a model or two beating it out. Now, I'm gonna have a full head-to-head review versus the Asus Zephyrus G14 with the Ryzen 9 5900HS and the Razer Blade 14 with the Ryzen 9 5900HS. So if you're curious about that review, once it comes out, it'll be in the YouTube cards above. Those are gonna be the two top contenders I feel like people are really gonna be, battling it out between when choosing the right laptop for their needs. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the simulated benchmarks, so let's jump right into the real world tests. For 3D modeling in Autodesk 3ds Max, in Autodesk Maya, in PTC Creo, and in Solidworks, it is a top contender for all of those programs. Moving on to After Effects, you can see it snags the #1 spot for the After Effects benchmark from Puget Systems, scoring a 983. However, when you're looking at the After Effects render benchmark, it scores a 655. I tried a bunch of different settings, fan modes, and performance modes to try and get this score up, but that's where it continued to land. So unfortunately, the render is not as good as some other laptops, but it absolutely kills it in the overall After Effects score. Moving on to video editing in Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve, you can see the export times from 1080p all the way up to 6K red footage using this laptop. Regarding playback in Premiere Pro, the Razer Blade 14 handles 4K without any issues with 0 drop frames. Moving up to 6K B-RAW footage, you'll see about 4,000 drop frames. And then if you go up to red 6K footage, you're gonna have about 11,000 drop frames out of the 16,000 in the project. Red is some beefy footage, and so this laptop really struggles with that footage quite a bit, alongside of most laptops that I run through those paces. I've yet to meet a laptop that's gotten below 10,000 drop frames with red 6K footage. Moving on to the Photoshop benchmark, this laptop snags the top spot. Whether you're using Figma, Sketch, the Adobe Design Suite, or the Affinity Suite, you are in good hands with the Razer Blade 14. The Razer Blade 14 kills it in performance, but how well does it handle battery life? If you're doing some video streaming on YouTube, or if you're doing a lot of productivity tasks like Microsoft Word or web browsing or video conferencing, you're gonna get about 2.5 to 3 hours of battery life with the screen at half brightness. If you turn the keyboard backlighting off, you're gonna get about 4 to 5 hours of battery life. Now, things aren't looking so good for creator tasks. If you're working in Photoshop, how I tested this is put the Puget Systems Photoshop benchmark on repeat for as long as the battery would last. Now, that is an intense workflow, and it got about 2 hours and 17 minutes of battery life. So if you're doing some more low-key, moderate design tasks, you may be able to get about 3 to 4 hours of battery life. For video editing playback in Premiere Pro, I ran 4K playback on a constant loop and repeat, and it lasted about 1 hour and 28 minutes. So I definitely recommend bringing that battery charger along with you with the Razer Blade 14. Unfortunately, this laptop does not have the coveted SD card slot. You have a power port, USB Type-A, USB Type-C, headphone jack, and on the other side, a HDMI port, Kensington lock, USB Type-A, and USB Type-C. If you want the coveted SD card slot, you have to get the Razer Blade Advanced model. Then again, that does not come with the Ryzen processor. That comes with the i7-11800H from Intel, which hopefully I'll be getting that unit soon and can do a head-to-head review versus the Razer Blade 14. Links if you're ready to make a purchase, likes if this video has brought you some value, and subs if you don't want to miss out on the future uploads. I'll see you here in the next one.